My name's Mrs. Self, and I'm going to talk to you about your options, and particularly about your option to learn a language. And this one is why learn French. So why is it awesome to learn a language? Well, Nelson Mandela said, if you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his language, that goes to his heart. Did you know that only 75% of the world speaks English, which means 25% speak another language? So it has to be important to be able to communicate with that percentage of the population. So first of all, we need to think about what jobs you might use your French in. What jobs where languages are required? Well, there's a whole list here you can look at yourselves. And not only teaching, which might have come to mind anyway, but engineering, law, retail, so buying and selling, computer games products, tourism, hospitality. You will be required in a lot of those to learn and know a language. It says at the bottom here, I can't think of a single career area where language skills are not an advantage. So let's see a little bit more about why you would actually learn French in particular over other languages. Well, you might not know that la francophonie is the French-speaking world. And there are many more countries in the world than just France where they speak French. And you can see that right here. You can see how all these different countries, they speak French, covering most of the continents of the world. There are countries where people speak French. So it has to be an advantage to travel to those countries, to speak French in those countries, or to welcome somebody in this country who might come from a French-speaking country and be able to communicate with them. We're going to listen now to a couple of people whose jobs involve languages, and they're going to tell you why they are so useful to them. There's some questions here which you can look at. We won't be answering them all now, but you can think about these questions and be answering them as you go along. So have a listen. This is Samir Singh, an Arsenal Football Club player.
My name's Samir Singh. I work for Arsenal Football Club in the community department. Our job is to work with the local community, and one of the projects we run for schools is called Arsenal Double Club, which is a languages programme encouraging young people to take up a language and realise that learning a language is fun and useful. I have always been an Arsenal fan. I never dreamed about working for Arsenal Football Club, but I learnt at school. I studied French and Spanish at GCSE and took French to A-level. I also studied ancient languages, Latin and ancient Greek through GCSE and A-level, and ended up studying ancient languages, Latin and ancient Greek at university, and I've ended up here at Arsenal Football Club. So the football industry is not obviously just what you see on the pitch, the footballers. There's a lot of people that work behind the scenes, and languages are very useful if you want to work in football. We do a lot of work with people from all around the world, so it's a very useful skill to have. We have lots of tourists visit us here as well on a non-match day and on the match day. So it's, if we have two people with an identical CV, but one of them can speak a language, they'd be more likely to get a job because it's a useful skill to have. At Arsenal, we've got a very multinational squad, multilingual squad. I think currently there's 13 different nationalities at Arsenal. Obviously, they all speak many different languages. Our current manager, Mikel Arteta, speaks 7 languages: Spanish, Basque, Catalan, English, Portuguese, Italian, French. And that represents where he's either played or been a manager or where he's from. Our striker, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, speaks 5 languages: French, German, Spanish, English and Italian, and again representing where he grew up, where he's from and where he's played. So learning a language means you can also travel to another country for work. In our press conference room, we have a special translation room at the back where if we're playing a foreign team, we will employ a translator who speaks that team's language, and they will be able to translate for any managers or players who are interviewed. So there's different languages spoken here on a match day and a non-match day all the time. So Arsenal Double Club is our modern languages programme. We have resources in French, German and Spanish for young people. And all the resources feature the Arsenal players speaking in their native tongue, and we also have resources related to those languages. So the players will be on camera speaking about themselves, their family, their pets, their children, their daily routines, all the things you need to learn in a foreign language, but it's the Arsenal players teaching you. And likewise, the resources are all focused around things like numbers, colours, body parts. Again, things you need to learn in a foreign language, but they're related to football. So it's using football to make language learning fun. Schools will sign up to Arsenal Double Club, the languages programme. We will send them resources, which they will use in school with their teachers, and they'll watch the videos with the players speaking in their native tongues. But at the end of the programme, they visit Emirates Stadium and they'll do a stadium tour where they'll practice their language. They'll have to learn different football-related vocabulary and words. So it's a regular stadium tour, but with a modern languages twist. It's called Arsenal Double Club because it's in two halves like a football match. So the first half is in the classroom, you're learning about football through the foreign language. The second half is out like a PE lesson, but you're also practicing your French or your German or your Spanish when you're playing football, so using numbers or colours or body parts in the football session. Being able to speak a language, even up to GCSE and A-level, is useful because even if you meet people who can speak that language but can't speak any English, you will be the one who will be able to look after them and make them feel welcome. So it's a very useful skill to have. And I don't think you need to be even fluent in a language. Just being able to speak even a few words is an asset, an advantage. And even as a football fan, you can travel if your team is playing abroad or England are playing abroad. You can travel on holiday to watch football abroad, and being able to speak a language is useful. And you can go and watch your team if they're playing abroad or England play abroad. We at Arsenal always encourage young people to learn languages because we think it's a useful skill. It's useful for us in the world of football, but also it shows that you have your eyes open and your minds open to people abroad. And football itself, we have players from all around the world and fans from all around the world. We are an outward-looking sport, and we encourage young people to be the same. I'll pick two favourite words. One is in a modern language, one is in an ancient language. Our former manager, Arsene Wenger, always used to say the word footballistically, which English people thought was a made-up word. But having just I was in Belgium for an Arsenal match speaking to some French-speaking fans, they use the word footballistiquement, which is obviously footballistically translated. So that's my new favourite word. My favourite word in the ancient language is vomitoria. I was speaking to the head of our stadium here, and he mentioned to me that all the openings around the stadium are called voms, but he didn't realise that it was actually a Latin word where they exit and enter the stadium. So 2,000 years later, it's the same word that they used in the Colosseum that we use here today.
Okay, we're now going to listen to another person. So that was from a football point of view, being a footballer, but being a linguist. Wow. But we're now going to listen to Fiona Bruce. Actually, before that, we're just going to hear a news item. And I want you to just think about how many languages you can hear in this news item. Quite a few languages are being used. And then we're going to listen to Fiona Bruce, who is a famous a very well-known BBC journalist and presenter, and about her career using languages. So first of all, the news item. How many languages can you spot?
Beaucoup des partisans de Donald Trump, en fait, lui croient quand il dit que l'élection présidentielle lui a été volée.
This could very well, here in Dalton, in northern Georgia, be the very last rally
for Donald Trump as President of the United States. Los funcionarios me dicen que el proceso se ha llevado a cabo sin irregularidades. Ambos os candidatos democratas nas eleições da segunda volta para o Senado da Geórgia já declararam as suas respectivas vitórias.
Und in Washington, direkt vor dem Weißen Haus, ist unser Reporter Philip Crowther.
Es ist so, dass wir effektiv von Donald Trump gehört haben, dass er jetzt eine geordnete Amtsübergabe sehen will. An Nationalgard, also auch endlich gestern nur lange Stunden kommen. Und dann spürt man beim Präsidenten doch auch den Druck von Mitgliedern seiner eigenen Republik.
Okay, so you can see how so many languages are being used around the world, and it would be great to be able to access what's going on by knowing a language. Let's listen now to, hopefully you know some of the languages that were there. For example, you obviously heard English, French, Italian, German, and many more, Spanish, Portuguese. Let's see what Fiona Bruce says now.
My name is Fiona Bruce and I work for BBC Television as a journalist and as a presenter.
And could I ask you which languages you know?
French and Italian are the languages I studied at university.
And how did you get the language both?
Well, my father's job took him abroad a lot, and we moved to Milan when I was 10. And I went to school there until I was 14 and learnt Italian there. And once I had one Romance language under my belt, the others came much more easily. So I was already studying French, but it improved because I could speak Italian. And then I did a little bit of Spanish as well. And then I chose to continue with the languages at university. So I chose French and Italian. Those were my strongest ones and studied them.
And why languages at university as opposed to something else?
To be honest, I was the first person in my family to go to university, so it didn't occur to me to do anything other than what I was best at. And I was best at languages, so that's what I did. But also I really enjoyed them. I really enjoyed them, and I really enjoyed the literature and just being able to talk in a different language.
And how has the knowledge of foreign languages helped you in your career?
My languages have been pretty useful at the BBC. As a researcher on a programme called Panorama, a current affairs programme, I had to interview politicians in Italian. I only last week was interviewing someone when I was filming in Italy, an art scholar who only spoke Italian, so I interviewed him in Italian. I've also interviewed people in French for the same art series. So it's not something I use every day, and not as often as I would like, but it has been something that's been useful, definitely.
And have you got into any adventures with your languages that you wouldn't have been able to do otherwise?
There have been times where I've done particular interviews with Italian government ministers, for example, because I'm the only one in the office who speaks Italian. There aren't many people you find who speak Italian, generally. So certainly having languages has meant there are certain jobs that I have done because only I was capable of doing them, and that was definitely an advantage.
And English has become the dominant global language. How do you respond to those that say knowing English is enough these days as Brits and we don't need to learn other languages?
There is something in the idea that you only need to speak English, and it is the lingua franca of business. But I would say, if that's all you do, you are missing out massively. Because when I go to France or Italy, those are the only two languages I speak, plus a bit of Spanish, I can engage with people in that country in a completely different way, understand their culture, just get so much closer to what that country is all about. And actually, it's more fun. It's more fun going to these countries if you can speak to people in their own language. So I would wholeheartedly recommend languages, even if you just end up using them as a hobby. It enriches your life. It really does.
And what advice would you give to young people, teenagers, maybe thinking whether they should study GCSE, A-level, maybe university school? What advice would you give them?
If you're thinking of taking languages on to A-level or to university, if you enjoy them, do it. You know, it's not vocational necessarily. It can be, but it isn't always, but it enriches your life. And if you're going to choose a language, I would say make sure you enjoy the literature of that particular language, because some countries have a richer kind of culture and literature than others, and you'll probably end up doing quite a lot of that. I really enjoyed that aspect of it, so certainly take a look at that.
Okay, so journalism, very, very important job that involves languages. I'm sorry if that was slightly cut off for you there, but you will be able to hopefully view this PowerPoint and listen to that again if you want to. Okay, so moving on. Now, what sort of things will we learn about in French lessons, and what kind of activities will you do? Well, you've already been studying French and done some of these topics already. There are 8 modules that we cover, and you've already covered Module 1, Theme 1, about identity and culture, and Module 2 about free time, sport, TV, music. Module 3 about celebrations and festivals in different French-speaking countries. And so you'll move on to Module 4 and complete the other modules through Year 10 and 11. So that's a list of modules that we do there. And it's not just about the vocabulary and the grammar or the tenses, but there's lots more to learn about the countries themselves and their culture, what food they eat in different countries, French-speaking countries, what's their flag, what's the national things that they do, they enjoy. So there's lots to learn about the countries, not just the language and the grammar of the country. And we'll be looking a lot at that. Now, I will try and show you this video very briefly, but I do need to show it in a different window. So bear with me and I will bring this up as quickly as I can. This is a really good resource that we use, GCSE Bite Size, and if you are getting stuck on a topic in French, you can go to Bite Size and see some little sketches which are quite funny that practice all the vocabulary that you need. You might be revising vocabulary and find it a little bit long to just look in your books, and so you can look at videos instead. If I can't actually play this now, you'll have the PowerPoint to be able to play it at a later stage. So I'll just see what happens here. It might come up in a different window. Yep. So I'm just going to play a little bit of this, but I will just take a few seconds to load the video for you. Okay, hopefully you can see this and you can hear this. I'll just play this little sketch for you, just coming to the end, and it is practicing les passe-temps, pastimes.
Mon petit ami et moi, on est ensemble depuis longtemps. Mais on se dispute tout le temps.
Moi je l'appuie, je te la demande rien. Mais tu calmes la bouche, j'en ai marre. C'est à quoi tu me réponds ça? Tu veux me sauter, c'est ça? Moi j'en ai rien à faire, moi je suis avec mon chien, je reste avec mon chien.
La semaine dernière, j'ai décidé que j'en avais assez, que c'était fini.
C'est fini!
Mais partout où je vais à Paris, il y a des souvenirs. Donc, j'ai décidé de rester à la maison. Mais il y a un problème. Rester à la maison, c'est ennuyeux. Alors voici ma solution. J'ai préparé un emploi du temps pour toute la semaine. Lundi, j'ai fait du dessin. Mardi, j'ai fait de la photographie. Mercredi, j'ai joué au volley. Je préfère le beach volley, mais comme j'avais un peu froid, j'ai gardé mes vêtements. C'était ennuyeux. Je l'aimais toujours, mais je n'aimais pas les disputes. Non, c'est fini. Je ne m'ennuie pas. Jeudi, j'ai fait de la natation dans ma piscine privée. L'exercice, c'est bon pour le moral. Vendredi, j'ai fait les activités du cirque. Samedi, je fais un peu de randonnée. J'aime ça. Et dimanche, j'ai joué aux échecs. Mais la partie était tellement longue.
Je suis désolé, Natou.
Ce n'est pas grave, je t'aime.
Moi aussi, je t'aime. J'adore les disputes. Ça me manque.
Moi aussi, ça me manque. Finalement, c'est bien plus amusant de faire des activités à deux. Attends,
Quoi?
tu ne peux pas faire ça.
Mais si, je peux.
Non, la tour ne peut pas aller en diagonale.
Si, c'est toi qui triches.
Tu m'énerves, c'est fini. Ou peut-être pas.
Okay, so you can see how watching GCSE bite-sized videos can help your vocabulary. So I'm just going to go back now to our presentation and just finish off with our slides. Again, bear with me just a minute. Okay, so just to conclude then, the other activities that we do as well are Quizlet, where you can click on these links. If you get this PowerPoint, click on the links to try and practice your vocabulary through games, which really helps for revision. And so finally, I would say learning a language, like many of the people in this video have said, is a very, very useful, academic, challenging, but also fun language subject to actually learn. So developing our skills in communication, it develops empathy with people, welcoming people, and we can have a lot of fun just getting to know people, making mistakes in languages, using different words to communicate. It offers lots and lots of possibilities. And then finally, just with your career, every job seems to need some kind of language element to it. So all the best for choosing your subjects, but the fact that you're going to do French will be one of your better decisions in the end.